Hey everyone, Meinke here from MLive.com, joined by Justin Rogers. Believe it or not, the first preseason game is upon us. Thursday night against the circus that is always the New York Jets. No Geno Smith. Players to watch, Justin. We're not going to see a lot of Matthew Stafford. We're not going to see a lot of Calvin Johnson. Won't see any Joyke Bell. Probably won't see much of Ryan Broyles, who's dealing with an injury. But we'll see a lot of end of the roster guys. We'll see a lot of guys who are fighting for roles on the team.
Young players.
Who are you? A lot of young players. Who are you most excited about seeing?
I think it's the obvious answer. We all want to see what Ameer Abdullah brings to the table in a game situation. It's been phenomenal in practice. Skill position players are always the most exciting to watch, whether it's a quarterback or receiver, and in this case a running back. I don't think he's going to get a ton of touches, but he's going to get enough where we're going to see what he does against a live defense and a pretty good defense. I don't know how much the Jets' first-team defense is going to play in this game either, but I want to see how his lateral cuts transition to game action. I want to see him maybe catch a pass out of the backfield. He has been very exciting in practice, and I'm just ready to see it against an opponent.
Yeah, we're in agreement here. I want to see his vision. I want to see his ability to hit a hole. Because, the athleticism jumps out to anybody who watches a Lions practice. It doesn't take a trained eye to see what this guy is doing there. He looks easily like the best rusher for the Lions at this point with Joyke Bell out. But as I've written before, running back, the two most important things he can do is break a tackle and his vision, his ability to hit a hole and anticipate a hole. And those are things you can't necessarily see when there's either no contact or at least they're not going to the ground. The escapability is really important from a running back, particularly when you deal with some of the offensive line issues the Lions have dealt with. We saw that last year with I thought Reggie Bush was an okay player, but Joyke Bell showed a better ability to break tackles, and that's why he was successful where Reggie wasn't. So these are the things I'm excited to see with Abdullah, because he can really play. You can see the athleticism. It's apparent. But can he break a tackle? Is he going to hit the hole? How far along is he in the offense? That kind of thing. Who else?
Defensively, we're looking at the line. And Ndamukong Suh's gone. They're going to be remaking that. I think that's where your focus is.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the defensive tackles. And, again, maybe an obvious choice, but the Lions returned 9 starters on defense. You kind of know what you're getting from a Rasheed Mathis and a DeAndre Levy and a Stephen Tulloch. I don't even think we'll see much of Tulloch in this game. Ezekiel Ansah. A lot of these guys are mainstays. You kind of know what to expect. Right. I'm excited about the changing parts on the defensive line, because that's what's the biggest difference since last year. Karan Reed, Tyron Walker, how those guys play together. And also they're kind of competing for the same job once Nada gets back.
Right.
So I'm kind of curious to see if one separates from the other. Once the pads go on and there's live action, you can really hit the guy in front of you.
I want to see Kyle Van Noy. I think he's going to get a decent chunk of playing time with Whitehead kind of pulling ahead in that starter's role. Van Noy had a rough rookie season. I mean, there's no other way to say it. He dealt with a lot of injuries, was never effective, could never carve out a role. Up and down camp, but I think it's been on an upward trend as of late. And I'm ready to see him in game action. As he told me the other day, he's much more comfortable in the defense, what he's being asked to do in coverage, where his assignments are in the run defense. I just want to see how he performs in training camp, in the preseason, because it's where we really saw Tahir Whitehead take off last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Van Noy is a guy who, he called it a lost season last year. I think that's the best way to describe it, because he missed so much time at the beginning, and by the time he got back, he was so far behind, was a lost guy, and even when he got back, was not a factor on defense. He played almost exclusively on special teams. And this is a guy the Lions actually traded up for to draft in the second round. So there was clearly a plan for him. He was going to factor in. He was supposed to factor in considerably right from the start. Right. 3-down player was the wording Terrell Austin used after they drafted him. And obviously that didn't happen last year. And now he's kind of been lost in the shuffle a little bit with Whitehead emerging. You got Tulloch back. You got Levy now locked up long term. They signed Josh Bynes, and they like what he did in the second half of the season for them last year. These are good problems for the Lions to have with the depth and displacing a former second-round pick. But it's bad news for a guy like Van Noy, because he has so much in front of him to see the field. And it'll be interesting to see how he handles that and if he's improved, and if so, where.
I have one more that's maybe a little interesting, because we've talked about the receiver battle in recent weeks, and one guy we didn't really mention was T.J. Jones. He's definitely on the outside looking in that competition, but he's had some good catches in practice. He seems to have some chemistry with backup Dan Orlovsky, and this is his first real NFL action. He missed his entire rookie season as well. There's still a chance for him to climb up. There's no clarity in that receiver battle. So I do want to see what T.J. Jones brings to the offense, even though he won't likely ever see a pass from Stafford in the preseason.
I think the receivers will be an interesting group to watch in this game because you have, I don't know, four guys who are competing for
Right.
2, maybe 3 jobs. It's kind of a free-for-all. In this game, you're not going to see much of Calvin Johnson. You're not going to see much of Golden Tate. So you're going to see a lot of these guys that we're talking about, Ryan Broyles and Corey Fuller and Jeremy Ross and Andrew Peacock and whoever I'm forgetting. That's going to be, I think, we're going to get a long look at these guys, and it'll be interesting to see if someone separates himself or makes some plays, because sometimes that can be the difference for one of these guys.
Yeah,
There's just not much separation at this point.
You mentioned Jeremy Ross. I heard your question to Jim Caldwell today about the return game. I mean, that's something that's interesting too. You can't, well, at least Caldwell doesn't simulate it very much in practice, so we don't get to see a lot of live returns. We get to see reps, and so this will be a chance to see. Has Ross made some progression, or is somebody going to be a legitimate challenger to knock him off of his pedestal in that role?
Yeah, I was just interested to ask Caldwell that because Ross is repped as the first guy at both those spots, but they had opened up the position so openly this offseason. They came out and they said we want to have a competition here, we need more, and they didn't disclude Jeremy Ross. I mean, they picked up his contract for the year and everything, but they wanted to open that up legitimately, and yet we haven't seen Ross displaced in any kind of way. And even on the depth chart, which means nothing, by the way, but even on the depth chart, the backup kick returner was Josh Wilson, who I can't see Josh Wilson returning a single kick this year. That's just not what he does. So it made me curious if Ross was really that far ahead of Abdullah, who was a guy when they brought in, they said this is a guy who could potentially compete for a special teams job right away. And so this is stuff we can't really see as much in practice when there's no hitting. But in the game we might get a better feel for, hey, Abdullah can return kicks, or maybe he can't, and it's going to be Ross. And that's huge for a guy like Jeremy Ross, who might not make this team just as a standalone receiver. I think he needs those special teams roles to have a job with the team.
Without question. Yeah, who takes the second team, who takes the third team, or the second or third rep at both kick return and punt return is going to be very interesting. And, it's one rep. I mean, you can only tell so much, but if Abdullah fields a second punt and takes us to the house, there's going to be a lot more buzz about him taking that job.
But you can see it with a guy like Abdullah. I think you're looking at, does he field the ball cleanly, and does he find a hole? Because we know he's fast. Right. That's not the issue. He's faster than Ross. But those are the two issues. Because with Ross, he could catch the ball. He had pretty good ball security last year up until the last game or two. But lack of big plays, and that was the biggest thing for me. In fact, if you look at Jeremy Ross's stats, he's actually a very average return man. He wasn't terrible last year, but what you lacked was the game-changing plays, the type of things you look for, particularly with an offense that was as bad as the Lions last year. You want the special teams to make plays, to flip that field position, to shift momentum, and those are the plays the Lions didn't get last year. That's something they're looking for, and Abdullah certainly is electric enough to provide those plays, but does he catch the ball cleanly? Does he secure the ball? Can he hit the hole? I think that's what the Lions are looking for.
Can't be too conservative either. I mean, I think the biggest knock on Ross, in my opinion, and some of this goes down to blocking, but way too many fair catches. I mean, led the league by a wide margin. I think punt return is significantly more important than kickoff return at this point in this league, with the 5-yard increase, which however many years ago that was now feels forever, but they need a punt returner. That's where the field position really flips.
We'll finish this video real fast. Okay, not a long response. We just need something fast.
Okay.
How many punt returns this year for Golden Tate?
10.
Okay, I'll say 3. We'll see. I think it'll be part of a fold. I just don't think they'll do it extensively because they need to protect his health with Calvin and all that. He's just too important to the offense, I think, to see it extensively. 10's quite a bit.
Yeah, but there's a lot of big games. I guess I think back to maybe the way other teams utilize. Deshaun Jackson's a good example. When he was in Philadelphia, after they pulled him off, they started using him in close game situations, and every win, every game is so important. So if the Lions are in a one-score game in the fourth quarter, I could see them, dusting off Tate after what we saw in Dallas last year.
They did it once last year in Dallas. I could see them doing it again for sure.
He got lit up in that punt return. So I guess that's enough to maybe scare you back down to 3.
Yeah, perhaps. And we know, Jim Caldwell, he likes to roll the dice here and there, but I think by and large he's a conservative coach, especially when it comes to the health of his team. I just personally think they're going to be conservative with him, which makes it all the more important you can find someone else on the team can make plays at that spot.
Sure.
For Justin Rogers, I'm Kyle Meinke. We are MLive. Keep it right here.